Hey, I'm Delise.
And I'm Ginny.
We know that parenting comes in seasons, and even the smallest wins deserve a happy dance.
Join us as we chat with moms in every stage of the parenting journey, fixing our eyes on Jesus each step of the way.
This is Blessings and Motherhood, because we believe that you can hold tissues and confetti at the same time. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Blessings and Motherhood. Today, we thought it would be timely to talk about the winter slump.
That's right. We all can feel those winter blues, right? You feel sad almost from the darkness that is literally accompanying the day. It starts to get dark, like at 4 something, right? And there's the sadness after the holidays sometimes that happens. You've had such a great long winter break, whether you homeschool or not. You've had that break, and then it's all of a sudden all of the school stuff comes up and you're like, oh no, I have so much to do. It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah, it really can. And I mean, we were talking before we started this, and seasonal depressive disorder is a thing. That's actually a disorder that a lot of people suffer from. But in addition to that, not having sunlight will affect just the average human because of the fact that vitamin D really does have such a strong effect on your mental health. And so even over the past couple of weeks, and then of course you have the holidays, and the holidays bring with them all of these emotions and memories and feelings that are good, but some of them are hard, especially if you miss someone. I know that your dad passed away, and so there's that to process. So statistically speaking, I've heard people say that this section of time tends to be the highest for mental health challenges, and whether it be depression or even other things like that. So we wanted to kind of take some time, not only to talk about how we've been feeling and what we've been doing and how we've been looking to the Lord, but also to encourage you if you might be feeling down, and hopefully, put some wind in your sails, and to tell you that you're not alone and that you can make it, and this doesn't last forever.
Yeah, that's right. So Delise, how about you? How are you feeling this winter season? Or do you have an example from your past where you felt the winter blues, and what did you do about it?
I've been feeling okay. I definitely will say that it depends on the week. And leading up to like the 21st to 22nd, whatever that winter solstice day is, I find myself telling myself, okay, the days are only going to be this short for a couple more weeks. You've only got a couple more weeks. And I was like coaching myself leading up to that week of Christmas. And then as soon as it was over, I was like, okay, they're getting longer. They're getting longer. Even if it didn't feel like they were getting longer, I feel like some of it has been really subconscious for me, honestly. And then another thing that I've really noticed is when you have a lot to look forward to, it's easier to push through some of that slump. So like, for example, with the holidays, and I had a couple gatherings I was super excited about, it was easier. But then after all of that goes away, that's when I feel it really hits you. Do you feel like that's true for you?
Yeah, definitely. After the highs of being with family and friends and making all those fun memories with your kids, you kind of come down from that high hill and you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah, now what?
And you're not sure where to look.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And in years past, I mean, I've had everything from feeling, I always describe it that I feel really down and really low. I've never been diagnosed with depression, so I don't want to claim that for the sake of those who do have that. But I have had seasons in my life before where I was very low. And for the sake of all the mamas listening with their kids today, we will not go too deeply into that, so don't worry. In those moments and in those times, the Lord has really taught me to seek Him, to cling to His word, and some practical things that we will talk about a little bit later that really can make the biggest difference in the world. So it's definitely something that I struggle with cyclically, but something that I have struggled with in the past couple of weeks. And so that's the reason we thought it would be nice to just share about it and let you know you're not the only one.
Yeah. And I think that right there is really key, that we're not alone. And just that reminder, as simple as it is, it can almost be freeing to know that you're not in something alone, and that, yes, other people go through this. Whether you're a mom, whether you're a dad, even our kids can go through this. They feel it too. They've had the cold months. They've had the darkness, maybe the early bedtimes. They've potentially been sugared up all Christmas long.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And they're coming off of that too. And now they're expected to start back doing their schoolwork and getting back into their normal routine. So we're not alone, Mama. And that can be encouraging. And we can see that just like Christ has told us, we don't do things alone. We are to live in community. We can live in community in those days and reach out to them as well.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the other things that I think about, Jenny and I have kind of toyed back and forth about what to call this episode. And one of the thoughts that we had was remembering your why, because when you're having the winter blues, the number one thing that you need to remind yourself is like, okay, well, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because it's easy to just be like, all right, forget all of this. Everything's going, especially at the beginning of the new year. Everybody's got their goals. And so people are trying to reestablish who they want to be and what they want to be and what they believe in. And it's easy in those moments to throw the baby out with the bathwater or to overanalyze things because you're uncomfortable. And a couple years ago, I did this process actually not because I wanted to do it, because a friend of mine asked me to. So I was like, okay, I'll do this for you. And it ended up being the biggest gift for me.
Yeah, you did it with her though.
Yeah, I did it with her.
Inviting the community in with you in that.
So the process was called Finding Your Why or Find Your Why. I think it's a book. You guys can look it up. And I will just go ahead and say that I didn't read the book. So I am not here to tell you. Yeah, I'm not here to tell you that the book is great. I'm just here to tell you my testimony and the process. And basically what we ended up doing was spending, I think it was like a month or two, having conversations together where she would ask me questions about like pivotal moments in my life and memories that I had and things that had shaped me. And then this was such a commitment. I can't believe she did this, but she wrote it all down for me.
Wow.
So like I sat there and I did the same for her. So I sat there and I just shared about these moments that had shaped my life, some of which I've mentioned on the podcast, a lot of which I haven't. And then she looked at it with me and found the common thread. And the point of it, kind of like the book says, Finding Your Why, is to see like what is the undercurrent of what the Lord is doing in your life and what is the thing that regardless of your circumstances that he keeps bringing you back to.
Yeah.
And so for me, my why ended up being something to the effect of to show up in a space authentically in such a way that invites other people to be who God has created them to be. So when I'm struggling, and I know that's not beautifully phrased, but when I'm struggling, maybe, not this job. I love this job, but I've had some like rough jobs. I worked in a call center, just different things that were very uncomfortable when I was in difficult work seasons and times when I said, this isn't what I thought God had created me to do. And it felt very disorienting. I could go back to that why and find my footing. And in those places say, okay, wait, if the Lord is calling me to show up in a way that invites other people to be who he's created them to be, then I can do that here. And I can walk in that here. And as a mom, I'm still very much on the early end of that. But I think that challenges me sometimes to make it less complicated. Because sometimes when you're down, like I said, I really try to reinvent the wheel because I like a big fix, but it's not about the big fix. Sometimes it's just about being faithful to what God is calling you to do and who he's calling you to be today and letting go of the other things. And that gives people freedom to do the same. So do you find that that's true for you, Jenny? Like that there is a why for you that you kind of go back to and you cling to in moments that are difficult?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I did have a question for you real quick on that thought. Do you think there's just one why for everybody, or do we have different whys? For instance, do I have a why I'm a mom, why I'm a homeschool mom, why I'm a wife, or is it all kind of under the same umbrella?
Well, I'll say I didn't read the book, so I don't know what his point was. But in the process that I did for that, there was one undercurrent. It was like in every single arena, it was the same thing. But I will say in life in general, I think it's completely valid for you to have nuance and for you to have specific ways. And for me, sometimes it's really helpful. Like I am that person who sits down at the beginning of the year and writes down people's names. Y'all don't go through my journal. write people's names, categories of my life, things that I'm not going to do anymore. I'll write it down. I'll exit out, like for saying no here. And my whys in those categories are different. So is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think I have an overarching goal of how I want to live my life and the things that are important to me. And are we saying that that's the same thing? The things that are important, is that my why?
So for me, the things that are important come after my why.
Ooh.
Does that make sense?
Deep.
So it's because let's take one that's not my phrase, one that's easier for us to understand. To glorify God and enjoy him forever. Let's go back to a catechism. So what is the chief end of man? I think I'm saying this right. To glorify God and enjoy him forever. Okay, so if that's your why,
right? Because
that's a why statement, then when I'm making decisions, whether it be the movies that I watch or how I spend my time, those other values come out of the why. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, totally. I totally get it. And I think we can all put that in the way we mother.
Yeah.
And especially in the way that we homeschool during the winter blues. Because if we can go back to that overarching, that theme of why we do what we do, like your friend helped you to get to, it can help us as we navigate whatever we're doing in our homeschool day or whatever we're doing in our job that day.
I've never asked you this before. Why do you homeschool?
Oh, that's a good question.
Since we're talking about it. I know how you got here with CC, but and you've kind of talked about the family that you knew and how much you loved them. But what would you say is your answer to that question? Why?
Yeah, it's so many-fold. When David and I were dating, we knew a lot of homeschooling families. And as we dated, I got to know a lot of these families, and I could see something that was different with them. I said, that family is different. What is it? I want it. I want what they have. They have relationship with their kids. They have time for each other. And not to say we didn't have that in my family. I just really wanted that for my family. So as David and I got married and knew we wanted to have kids, somehow, I guess this is really just the Lord brought us to the conclusion of, this is why I want you to homeschool, because I can give you that extra time that you want with your kids if you homeschool. So you don't have to send them to school 8 hours a day like I was, and I know that's not fit for everybody's family, but for me, that was something that was really important. Again, it's part of my why. I do think I've not been through a process like you have, but I am a very family-oriented person, and I wanted deep relationships with my kids. I knew I wanted them to come to me with whatever it was that they were nervous to talk about. I wanted them to want to come home after they choose to leave. And I think I just equated homeschooling with that. That might not be right, I know. But we also wanted the flexibility to travel. We wanted the flexibility to take our kids with us, to give them a big worldview. We're hoping to travel with them one day. That is on our bucket list, is to live overseas for a couple years, to let our kids go into a different culture. And then ultimately, I just really had that deep burning desire that I am the discipler of my children. And God has given that responsibility to me as their mom. And he just led me to that homeschooling desire. And it just happened that as I was kind of coming through that and praying through that, David got his job with CC. So here we are.
Cool timing.
But yeah, there's a lot of reasons why we homeschool.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I feel like a lot of what you said, those are things that a lot of people would say. And so I do appreciate that you said, that might not be it for you, but this is how I arrived at my why. And this is the reason behind what I'm doing. So on those days when I'm like, if I hear that Timeline song one more time, I
love the Timeline song. What are you talking about?
What do you mean? 10 whistle? How are we doing? Is everybody good? On those days where you might question how much you love the decision that you made, you have something to go back to that really will last. All right, we are interrupting this conversation to tell you about the Classical Learning Cohort. I actually had an opportunity just the other day to have a conversation with someone who has come through the Classical Learning Cohort, and I can tell you from that conversation that if you do classical conversations and you really want to further your understanding of classical learning and how to teach classically, the Classical Learning Cohort is definitely worth your time. So let me tell you what it is. The spring semester is already open. Each semester consists of 6 different weeks. And in those different weeks, you will have an online experience with a small group. That small group will be led by a mentor, and the mentor is going to take you all through hands-on experiences and exercises that will help you hone your skills as a classical educator. So for example, you will get to apply an exordium and develop a review. You'll also get a lot of experience with classical assessments. So if this sounds like something that would serve you as a classical educator and you would love to continue to grow in the art of classical education, go ahead and go online to classicalconversations.com/cohort. That is classicalconversations.com/COHORT. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah. And I think just knowing that it wasn't just this one day where I was like, we're going to homeschool.
Yeah.
It was the accumulation of years. And I think it started probably even back when I was even in school, knowing that I wanted time with my family, with my mom and my dad, but I was so busy. Now, I enjoyed being busy. I was an athlete. I went to practices all seasons of high school. In the summers, we went to camps, and I enjoyed it. I'm not saying I didn't. But I also just really wished I had built that relationship with my parents, especially after losing my dad. I wished I had had more time with him. And I think in its own little way, homeschooling my kids is kind of giving me that extra time with them that I didn't get with my dad, and even now with my mom. As she's in retirement, she's off having lots of fun and lots of adventures. So
Yeah. And I mean, that's a really good encouragement for me. Yeah. We're back in the sleepless nights with these molars.
No.
But to savor it, because it's like once you make the choice, you're saying, this is why I made the choice. Then when you're in the middle of the choice, sometimes, again, and I know I've said this in a different way already, but sometimes you are almost in a rush to get to the next thing, or at least that's how my personality is wired. I'm very future minded. And so I do want to have soaked in as much as I could have possibly gotten. And it's okay to be uncomfortable and to acknowledge that. But out of every season, whether that's, okay, frankly, Leo's getting on the brink of too heavy for me to hold for a long time, but I'm going to hold you and enjoy it because you want me to hold you right now. And in probably 6 months, you're going to be over it, And so let me just lean into it. Or time with my parents. You could be at home and not really be present at home.
Absolutely.
So just that kind of wake up call is what I'm hearing from you to say, okay, so what time do you have and how are you using it? And are you really soaking it in for everything it's worth? Because you might find yourself in a position where you wish you could get it back, or you liked what you did, but you see something better.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as we talk about the winter blues, that's a great reminder for us, because I'm there right now too. I'm not going to lie to you. This past winter, man, we had a great Christmas, don't get me wrong, but I feel like now my kids are already starting to come back to school saying, I don't want to do schoolwork. School's not fun. And honestly, they were there before Christmas break even. They were there at Thanksgiving. And I really felt guilty. Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing something wrong. I honestly, I was yelling a lot more than I normally do. And that is not my personality either. I hate that I was yelling at my kids. I was just frustrated super easily. And then I just had to back up and, oh, mommy needs a timeout. And yep, I literally put myself in my closet. And they know that when I know that I can't handle it, mommy needs to take a minute or so. And I hated that they weren't enjoying learning. They were arguing more with one another. So honestly, I think they were in the winter blues slump as well.
Yeah.
I was in the winter blues slump. And when you put it all together, that's probably a perfect recipe for disaster. So we all had to come out of that. Well, not even come out of it. We all had to, or I had to sit there, take a breath and say, what do we need to fix? And I took it straight to the Lord, because that's the only place you can take it at that point. I can't get myself out of that. They can't get themselves out of that. I had to look to the Lord for guidance in that. And after doing that for a while, I came to a few conclusions, practical tips and things. But a big part of it was, why am I homeschooling? And it came back to that. I want time with my kids. I don't want that time to be yelling at them or frustrated at them. And then it's funny because I was looking at books. We always like to give each other books for Christmas. So I was looking at, all right, what books am I going to give myself for Christmas? Do y'all do that?
Yes.
I give
totally.
myself books. But I found a book called A Waking Wonder by Sally Clarkson. And I got that for myself. And I am already on chapter like 5 or 6 of that book. And it has been a great wake up call. And I can definitely see how the Lord was leading me to that book in that winter blues season, because already he, in that book, Sally Clarkson is great in general. I love a lot of her things, but just reminding me of the fact that we do have a limited amount of time with our kids, and to allow them to have the time to sit and to wander, but to be present with them. She goes a lot into that, into, no technology kind of thing, or don't let that, or don't use that to babysit your kids. I was feeling a bit guilty of that as well. I don't normally do that, but I don't know. I don't know about you. I can get into a bad routine with it sometimes. So it's been just really good to read that and have that reminder that I need to be present with my kids. And so we've already been reading a lot more books at home together, which we read a lot anyways, but we've been playing a lot more board games. We got a lot of board games for Christmas. And remembering the why of my homeschooling has really helped.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to read that book. You'll have to send me the title so I can look it up. And when you said, the Lord was the only one who got you out of it, we have on our list practical tips. And one of the most practical things that anybody has ever done for me is giving me Bible verses like that I could go back to and hold on to. And something I'm realizing now, which I guess I did mention this, but I'm realizing it now, is that my mom, not just the sing-songy kind of songs, but my mom would just teach us songs, like songs for adults that were scripture. And I didn't realize that she was doing that. I knew she was doing the ones that sound like they're for children, which is why I mentioned that in a previous episode. But I teach voice to some kids, and so I'm often looking for songs that I want to teach them and things they should hide in their hearts. And one of my favorite songs that I'm teaching them now is by Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir, and my grandma would always sing it. And it's based on this psalm, and I want to read it to you guys because this is something I go back to a lot of the time when I'm struggling. But it's Psalm 121, and it says, "I will lift my eyes toward the mountains. Where will my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to slip. Your protector will not slumber. Indeed, the protector of Israel does not slumber or sleep. The Lord protects you. The Lord is a shelter right by your side. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will protect you from harm. He will protect your life. The Lord will protect your coming and your going, both now and forevermore." And just this whole cluster of Psalms here from like 20 to 25, there's a lot of that theme of lifting your eyes up to the Lord. And I think something our generation is doing really well right now is acknowledging when we're down. And then you need to know how to pick yourself back up.
Right.
And the best thing that we can do, even before we get to I want to model this for my kids, because I know you and I both have that really strongly in the back of our minds. It's like, okay, well, what is it that the Lord is teaching you, and what can I actually do? And just remembering that my help comes from the Lord. He is a present help in time of need. He is your protector. He doesn't sleep. He's not tired like I'm tired. He's not exhausted like I'm exhausted. So therefore, I can cast my cares on him because it's not going to weigh him down.
Right.
He can handle it. And once I dump it out, another one of the practical tips I wrote down is cry. Yeah. Sometimes it is better to let off the pressure valve. Like you said, go in the closet and let it go so that you're not constantly bubbling over. And then you can continue. But sometimes things have to fall in order for them to get back up.
You have to let yourself be able to feel it. And that's okay. And I even have friends who have literally set a timer and say, all right, I'm going to let myself wallow in this for 3 minutes, and then I'm going to be done and over it, and I'm going to move on with my day. And I think that's an okay thing to do, and it's healthy.
Yeah. It's totally healthy. Wrapping this up, let's rapid fire practical tips.
Rapid fire.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
So I'll go, you go, I'll go, you go. We'll see how this goes. But vitamins, multivitamins, huge.
Yep. We changed our schedule up. Our homeschooling day was not working. So I'm literally changing up how we do our school every day.
I love that. Outside time. When it's cold, I don't like the cold, but it was not snowing at all. I think it was 65 degrees, but it was drizzling a little bit. And I might have posted this on the stories if you saw it. I put Leo in his snowsuit and we went outside because I hate the mess. Like that's what keeps me from going outside. It's cold, it's wet, whatever. But do what it takes to get that sunshine when it's out.
Yeah. Be intentional in making your home calm and peaceful. For us, that has meant we've got essential oils going on in my home right now. I have decluttered a lot of things. We got rid of a lot of things so that it just looks nice and neat.
Yeah.
And even the temperature wise of your home, what you're eating, things like that to be really intentional in creating that environment for your kids and yourself.
Absolutely. Another big one is magnesium. That affects your mood too. And like, I don't have time right now to take a bath, but what I can do is sprinkle it in the bottom of my shower because your feet are really porous. And I found that helps. It helps me to sleep and it helps my mood to be a little bit better. So that's helpful for balancing out things.
Yeah. Inviting your kids into the things that you have to do every day. Invite them into chores, invite them into saying your prayers with you, invite them into your Bible study. And I know that can be hard for some moms out there. But man, it's amazing to see what happens when your kids just sitting beside you as you're reading your Bible and what they start to do. Just try it, inviting them into the little things.
We've been doing that lately because of the time change. And actually, I think of you a lot when it's happening. And it has been sweet. You're right. It's been a really sweet time.
It can be hard. And Lincoln, my littlest one, definitely challenges me sometimes. But welcoming the challenges, I think, as well is another practical tip. It's okay. Take a breath and just say, all right, God, this is what you've given me right now. And what would you like me to do with it?
100%. I have 2 more. You got 2 more?
I don't know.
Let's see. I'll do one.
See what comes into my head.
Last one's get out of the house. Sometimes that's just, we're going to go look at the Christmas lights that are left. Like it's bedtime and I refuse to scream, sit down, put that down. Da, 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 da. At this 45 minutes where I need to keep you up. Let's just go for a car ride.
Yeah. My next one will be similar to that. It's just plan specific events that bring you something to look forward to, whether that's going out to get a special treat, whether that's going to a special park that you guys like, whether it's taking a hike somewhere special, hiking even just to your neighbor's house to say hello or give them cookies or something. Something to get yourself out of the house or just an event to look forward to.
That's great. And my last one is be thankful.
Yes.
Thankfulness, it's not trite. It is not trite. It is a very huge weapon.
Yeah.
And choosing to be thankful for the smallest thing can change everything.
Yeah, that makes me think too. So for Christmas, like I said, we got a lot of board games. And this isn't a board game, and I can't remember the name of the company. Maybe we can find this for the show notes. But it's something called the Gratacube. And it's a dodecagon cube. Is that a thing? It's like how many sides?
What is
12?
20, 12? I'm like, where are we?
I don't know. It's got a lot of sides on it.
Chris is going to look it up.
Okay, good. Thanks, Chris. And on every side of it, it has like the word nature or it has a different word. And so it's a game you play with your family at the table. You roll the cube and it lands on nature. And you have to say something that you're thankful for that is related to nature. And you say it to God. God, I am thankful for the trees outside of my house that I can climb. And it can be something simple, but it gets your kids and yourself remembering to just be thankful. And we've already used it in our house and it's super exciting. We keep it by our table so that if we're in a mood and we're just not having a good time, all right, let's get the Gratacube out. Everybody's got to roll it once. So yeah.
That is so cool. I was struggling to not interrupt you with squeals. Yeah. No, that's really cool. I love that.
I'll have to look up. I can't remember the company I saw that made it, but
that's amazing. Well, you all, we hope that you enjoyed this episode, that you found it encouraging. If you did, we would also love to hear from you. Maybe you guys have ideas that we didn't mention. I'm sure that you have ideas that we didn't mention. So go find us over on social media at Blessings and Motherhood.
Yeah, and you guys share this episode with a friend. Think of that one friend who would really benefit from some encouragement during this winter blues season. So share this episode with them and go subscribe to all of our channels so that you don't miss the next episode.
We'll talk to you soon.